whether you want to show up or not, you're showing up somehow. And so wouldn't it be better to show up as your best self and really put your face out there and show people who they are working with and connect with them? We connect with eyes, we connect with faces, we connect with voices. Photos and videos are so important.
Welcome to Business Origin Stories. I'm Amy Schutte, your guide to crafting a magnetic message for a profitable business. This is the podcast for you if you're ready to claim the transformative power of your own origin story and use it to create a brand that finally stands out. We're here to level up, but more importantly, I'm here to help you elevate your influence, your community, and your impact on the world. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And remember, the stories you tell yourself are your greatest currency. Hi, and welcome back to Business Origin Stories. Today I'm talking to Erin Blackwell, who's an award-winning professional photographer in Boise, Idaho. She is someone that I've worked with multiple times. She truly is a game changer and has been blazing the way for photographers, and she's photographed very famous people, and that's fun. And this interview is great because Erin dives into a little bit of her backstory on building such a successful business. We talk about pricing, and we also talk about pivoting because she's moving her business in a new direction where there's a lot more coaching involved and sharing her wisdom with other photographers. So if you're curious about what it looks like to build something that's so successful and then to start pivoting a little bit, you're going to really love this interview. We also dive into the importance of personal branding when it comes to visuals. And so as someone who does branding in my work at Hudson & Co., I think this is a really powerful conversation. All of these pieces that are part of your visual brand are incredibly important. And so this conversation's value packed. It's short and sweet. So get in here, listen up, and take some notes. And if you're in Idaho, Erin's the one to book with. So with that, let's go. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, I am thrilled. I know you in real life and I know you're so fun. So I'm excited for everyone to get to know you if they don't already. But tell us, just to start out with, where are you right now?
I am in Meridian, Idaho.
A wonderful place.
It is.
It's always nice to have Idaho entrepreneurs that are not too far.
Represent.
We have a lot of amazing entrepreneurs in Idaho.
We do.
You have taken pictures of some amazing entrepreneurs that are Idahoans, and some cool relationships.
We have ClickFunnels here. We have ConvertKit here. We just have this mecca of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Really.
So, Erin, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So I'm Erin Blackwell. I am a portrait and branding photographer. I take beautiful photos of fun living people and brands. But I've also added coaching to my list of things that I like to do, enjoy do. And I now coach other branding photographers and I'm loving it.
That's a recent pivot into coaching.
Yes.
Because you've been in business for
about 14 years now. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's something I tried to do before, but I think it was a little too early on. And now it was the perfect time. Everything came together.
I love that. But it's really powerful when people have been in business, done the amazing thing, and then turn around and help other people do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I do think you can try to move into coaching too early because there's just so many lessons along the way. But your portfolio and what you've built is so strong. But let's talk about personal branding that pivot, because I think that pivot is interesting, especially if people have been doing something for a long time. They've gotten really good at it. And now they're thinking, I want to help other people do this.
Yeah.
But what is that transition? But we met, oh my gosh,
a long time,
5 years ago.
It has. Yes.
I don't know. My podcast cover photo is one that Erin took.
Aw.
That's how much I love Erin. She's amazing. But Erin, let's talk about personal branding and the power of really great headshots. And then let's move into that pivot story, because I would love to know, what do people need to do if they're thinking about moving into coaching off of their current strategy?
Yeah, I love that. I love personal branding. I am a huge branding and marketing nerd, I call myself. I love learning about it, reading about it. And I think the mix of my love for the branding and marketing side mixed with photography gives me a unique perspective on it. And so I see it for all that it is, not just as a photographer would say, you need photos. I see why you need the photos and how you can use the photos and where you'll use the photos. And I think that's one of the reasons why this part of my business just really blew up in the last couple of years. I think I knew it before I knew it, that you are your brand and that you putting yourself out there in an authentic way is going to be your best bet, no matter what kind of business or brand you have. And looking back on just my social media, I think that's something I always just did naturally. I just was myself. I was who I was. People say that a lot to me. They're like, oh, you were exactly like you are online. And I am. I just am me. And sadly, that is not the case with everybody, but I think it's something that really sets you apart and really helps you connect in a genuine way with your audience and your ideal client and attracts them to you. And I think that, like I said, it's just something that I did without even knowing it from the start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your Instagram is really, all your social media is just really fun, and it is authentic, and it feels like a very fun, like behind the scenes, which is a really nice combo compared or to contrast the beautiful images that you're putting out, right? That they are authentic because those people are happy, but it's also a very professional, gorgeous headshot piece. And then you've got this like very fun part of your brand that always is coming out too. So you hold both really well. I'm curious if people have asked you how you're doing that piece specifically, because I do think that's an interesting way to show up on social media.
I've had people say to me, I want to be more authentic and be more fun and goofy online, but I'm afraid it won't look professional. And so I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's my personality is fun and bubbly, but I take my work very seriously. I'm very serious about what I do, the process of the photo shoot and the photos themselves. And so there is a place to mix both of those, but you have to make sure that the professional part stays professional.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, since we're going to talk about headshots for just a second, or these beautiful pictures, how often should people be getting brand photo shoots? And then how, especially since we live in the social media world and we're putting across like these professional pictures, plus this like fun, maybe more authentic real life side,
Mm-hmm.
what are your suggestions as a personal branding maven?
I always say that you should be getting your photos done professionally once a quarter. I just think quarterly just lends itself to quarters of business, seasons, holidays, hair changes, clothing changes, all of those things change based on the quarter. So that's my recommendation. Now, I know that's not realistic for everybody. And I also know that our phones do really take beautiful photos. And so that's why during COVID, when I could not work in my studio, I created a guide to help entrepreneurs take better photos. I know there's a place for professional photos, and I know there's a place for just taking your own photos and doing it in a better way so that it just elevates them above the normal selfie or whatever it is. So I say once a quarter, but don't let that scare you. If you can't do that, just show up in photos and online as much as you can, because that's what's important. You don't need to be perfect to show up online. I always say that. And you can take your own photos and make them good enough to be using in those interims when you can't go get professional photos taken.
That's a very kind suggestion. I think people hear the quarterly piece and they're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm 5 years behind. When I know when you've done my photos before, you're very strategic about the photos that you're taking for people. Mm-hmm. And I have not seen another photographer do that in the same way that you have. Can you talk about what are the 5 or the 10 must-have photos that you need to get at every quarterly shoot or once a year whenever you're doing this with a professional photographer? Because your method is fantastic.
Yeah, I learned a lot about body language, and I also learned a lot about, I actually looked at what the majority of my high achieving clients were buying from me. Which images, which poses were they buying over and over again? And not surprisingly, they were the same ones. And that's because everybody needs the beautiful about me shot where you're looking right at the camera and invoking trust in your reader. And you need the great shot for the banner of the top of your website. You need the marketing piece. You need the shot of you laughing so you look approachable. There's actually a lot more than 5. And I don't even know if I told you this. I have a freebie. Anyone's welcome to download it. The shots, 31 shots your business needs, no matter who you are, because there are specific shots that everybody should have. And I think a lot of photographers take them. They're just not taking them purposefully. Like they're not thinking you need this shot. It just happens that way. So most people get what they need, but it's always nice to have that checklist and just be like, I got everything I needed. I don't necessarily need to come back next quarter if I don't want to.
Yeah. 31 shots. Okay. We'll link that up in the show notes because Such a kind resource. Yeah, because I found even when we did one of the quickie ones, you were like, you absolutely have to do this. And I was like, I don't know. But yes, I've used that photo over and over because it's just digital marketing. And I think that's one of your powerhouse pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're moving into strategy, you've boosted and changed your personal brand a little bit from being like the go-to photographer in Idaho to now speaker, coach, teacher. How did you strategically think through that before you started launching your coaching pieces?
I always knew I didn't want to be relying on physically photographing people into my 50s and 60s, right? Like it's a very physically taxing job. I get regular massages, go to the chiropractor, like it takes a lot out of me. And so I knew that eventually I would need to add these other pieces that would bring in income for me. I started learning about digital marketing, digital products, and that's what I started adding, with the end goal to be, how do I send these people that buy my digital products up the ladder? And that was, of course, naturally leads itself to coaching. I am lucky that I enjoy coaching because it's not always easy, but I really do enjoy it. I used to call myself the ultimate cheerleader because I really do cheer. I really do want people to succeed. I want other photographers to succeed. I want them to skip over the mistakes I made. And I think that has really helped me make things bite-sized and understandable for people as they're just going along their photography journey, wherever they're at, whether it's beginning, middle, or just really professional, and just helping them get to that next level, whatever that might be for them.
So people are listening and they're thinking, okay, I've been a photographer for a while, or I've been whatever I am for a while, thinking about coaching. Did you find the digital product step into that was the best path forward?
I think it gave me a lot of credibility, having people purchase a low-end product that was really valuable. I really made it packed with value. And that alone gave them trust in me. And they wanted to know more about what I did and what I had to say about certain things. And so naturally, yes, people started asking me questions. And when you start getting a lot of questions and you're a busy working photographer, there's really no easy way to just be telling people everything for free, and helped me make a little bit of a bigger product. And then the end result was like, hey, if you want one-on-one access to me, if you want to be in my Vox or inbox any time of day or night, here is my coaching package. And so it happened naturally, but yes, all of those little things helped it get to where it was in a natural way, for sure.
Tell me about the transition though, because you added like team members to help your other side of the business keep going. Because I do think there's a lot of strategy if you're pivoting.
Yes.
But you have a lucrative business. A lot of times you don't want to burn the boat, right? You don't want to just say, I'm just done with this and I'm moving into this piece. So tell me some of those strategic decisions to get your other side of the business, your portrait and photography side of the business, up and feeling like you felt confident in what was going on.
I think the year I photographed you, which I want to say was 2018, 2019, was a wild year for me. I hit six figures for the first time, and just from photography, not from digital products. And I was shooting all the time and I was making a lot of money, but I was super burnout. And I was like, something's got to give here. Like I can't continue. And if you know what you're doing, if you are an expert at what you do and you're priced accordingly, because that's very important, there is a way for you to do what I did, which is ascend myself out of shooting every shoot that I offered and only shooting my top tier photo session. And then I brought in my amazing associate shooter, Isabel, who's basically an extension of me. If you ever hang out with her, we have very similar personalities. And that was so helpful going into this, because my clients that were like, I only want Erin to shoot me, as like the second they met her, they were like, oh my gosh, I love her. That was super helpful. And so that allowed me to bring in people at a lower price point still and offer a variety of options for them. But it took me out of being the one to physically photograph every single thing. And so it's worked out really well. She's been with me, I think, almost 3 years now. I've taken her on trips with me. She's photographed people in my mastermind that I'm a part of for me. And it's just been really great. But I will say, you have to be strategic about it. You have to find a good fit. The best thing about Isabel, she was already a talented photographer. The best thing about Isabel is her personality. It goes well with mine and it goes well with my clients.
You said something there that's interesting, and this is something I've always loved about you, is I love it. You're not afraid to charge high ticket for what you're doing.
Do that.
And I've I don't work with photographers very often anymore, but when I was first starting my business, I worked with a lot of photographers on their copy and their strategy. And a lot of wedding photographers. And I would always sit down and be like, let's do math. Because at a time, because everyone's always so scared to raise their prices. And so by the time we would do the reverse math, and I'd be like, you are making $5 an hour. Can't do this.
Give money.
Yeah. And that was one thing I appreciate about you from the start was it seems, and I don't know how you got, because you've been in business for a while. So I don't know, tell me about the progression to get there, but you're able to move into coaching, hire team members because you have been charging high ticket for a long time. And you have not been afraid to do it. And it's been part of your personal brand is that you are a luxury photographer. Can you tell me a little bit about that mindset? Because I do find that's probably a huge thing now that you're coaching other photographers.
Yes.
I'm sure the pricing comes up like all the time.
Yeah, it's probably the number one thing I yell at my for. I think, unfortunately, there's a couple of things at play. Number one, we're creatives. Creatives typically don't love looking at numbers. They don't love math. I didn't. I actually started out very afraid to charge, very shy to say what I charged. And this is something I worked really hard on was money mindset and knowing my value and my worth. I've taken a lot of courses and I read a ton of books on it. And that is really, I truly believe this secret to my success was figuring that out and continuing to work on it. Because if you know anything about money mindset, it's a constant thing. Things pop up all the time, no matter what level of money you're making. Yeah. And so for me, it was really, I started my photography business in Denver. I lived in Colorado at the time. And about 5 or 6 years into my business, we moved here to Idaho and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a soul. And I was shooting beauty and boudoir at the time. And I remember other photographers out here like scoffing at my pricing and being like, you're not going to be able to charge that in Idaho. This is Idaho. And for a little bit, I listened to them. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, there are people everywhere that have money. There are people everywhere that will prioritize photography. And I just had to find those people. And I make way more now here in Idaho than I ever made in Denver. I am very expensive and I'm not ashamed of that at all. And you always have to match that though with the value you're bringing. Money has to be a value for value trade. You can't just charge a lot if you don't know what you're doing. So not only do you have to have the skills, obviously customer service skills as well, and then the systems and processes that make your business work for you when you're not working in it. And so it took me a good amount of years to set that all up. But I can honestly say now I work less and I make more. And my clients are happier and better than years ago when I charged $200 and didn't know what I was doing.
Do you have a good book recommendation on money? Because I think this comes, we have so many, you and I are both readers, but yeah. I think it's a big thing for any industry and anyone in business. I just found it to be, it was literally every photography client.
It is. I think it's creatives. And I also, unfortunately, think it's something that women struggle with is for their worth and charging what they're worth. And one of my favorite authors is Barbara Hewson, formerly Barbara Stanny. She wrote Overcoming Under Earning. She has a lot of books. All of her books are brilliant. And she is an amazing money coach. And anything by her, I think you're doing great just reading anything she wrote.
Okay. That's a good recommendation. I'll add that. That's cool. So I thank you for going there with me because I do think that was an important part of your success. And then bringing on a team member.
Yes.
And then now moving into this other space. Tell me, because your personal brand is so strong. And I am sure when people, wanted to work with you and then you're saying, I've got a team member, that's always a transition as well. So even if they meet her and they're like, oh yeah, she has a similar personality, there's still probably that bit of that like hesitation, overcoming objection. How do you do this when you're really looking at building your personal brand to be so strong, but also making sure it's inclusive of the team that you're building around you?
I think you have to be aware of what your personal brand is. Step number one. I think a lot of people aren't. And then for me, it was like non-negotiable. When I hired Isabel, I was like, you are now a part of me. You're a part of my business. We have to be on the same page as far as everything, posing, systems, pricing, all of it. And so it was a little bit of a learning curve for her because she's somebody who's, like I said, amazingly talented, but did not want to run a business. So a lot of the things in the beginning, like the pricing and stuff like that, I could sense a little bit of friction there with her. And that's fine. I totally get it. She wasn't used to that. But it was something that I just kept saying to her, this is how we do it. This is how it's going to be done. And also, something that I always say to anybody that has a hard time with charging more is charging more allows you to give more. I can employ people, I can donate to charities, I can do things that I wouldn't normally be able to do if I was stuck working all the time for $5 a shoot. So it really creates freedom for you and for everyone else around you, your family, your friends, your team members. And so I think once I said that, that kind of helped shift the perspective. And it's something I really try to impart on my students. Like, you are not doing anyone any favors right now by making no money every photo shoot and working yourself to the bone. So I think that was a big part of it.
I love that. I think once you understand that reciprocity piece, and because you said that too, right? You can't just charge high ticket without bringing the value.
Yeah.
And then you move that reciprocity into other areas. And I think that's the key.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm. When you're now in this coaching position, is this where you want to see, do you see this as like your future of just doing coaching and maybe less the photography side of things and building up a bigger team there? Or what's your plan as you're moving into this next phase?
Yeah, I'm loving where it's at right now. So I still shoot about twice a month, which is my sweet spot because I put a lot into every shoot, a lot of planning and all the elements that go into it. So it's very time consuming. I think people think, oh, 2 shoots, that's nothing, but it's not like I'm just showing up and shooting. So that takes a lot. And then the coaching, I have a 6-week coaching program and I have a mastermind. And so there's a lot of students that are messaging me daily, asking me questions, and I just love it. That's where I thrive. So I love having the ability to shoot a little bit because I want to stay on top of my game. I do love photography. I love what I do and I love working with clients, but I do also really love this coaching part. So I'd say it's probably like 80-20 right now, 70-30. And I really like that ratio.
Okay. That's great. Can we talk more about the photography piece? Just because I keep thinking about a lot of my clients and they've hit a certain level in business. A lot of them are not digital marketers, but they're or in the digital marketing field or need to do that. They're brick and mortar service-based businesses. They're upping their brand game. And then when we say, okay, we really think it's time for some really good photos, they freak out because they're like, we don't really need them. I'm really curious. If you could talk to those people that are like, we're in the field, we're just doing our thing, we don't really need photos, especially since you have all this background with photography and then with body language and how people, when you look at the camera and you have a headshot where it's you looking at the camera, that's a whole different vibe than when your head's turned away from the camera. And just talk to me about why photography is so critical to building the personal brand and like really good photography with a really good photographer.
I would argue that it's almost more important for people that are not in the digital marketing space, because what's the first thing, I don't know about you, but the first thing I do when I'm thinking about working with a company or a local business is I go Google them. I go on their website and the first place I go is the about page. I want to see who I'm working with, who I'm talking to. I think it's proven science, we can subconsciously make these decisions based on a person's face in 0.2 seconds or whatever it is. It's some ridiculous low number. Whether you want to show up or not, you're showing up somehow. And so wouldn't it be better to show up as your best self and really put your face out there and show people who they are working with and connect with them? We connect with eyes, we connect with faces, we connect with voices. Photos and videos are so important. And especially now when the online digital world is so big and have taken over and started to take away from some of these brick and mortar places, it's like you have to differentiate yourself. And the best way to do that is you, because you are your brand. Show who you are, talk about what makes you special and different from other people that do what you do. That is literally what will set you apart from the millions and hundreds and thousands of other people that do what you do. There are 26,000 photographers in the United States. That's insane. It's insane. But I'm not super famous, but people know who I am because I put my face out there. They see me, they hear my voice. And so it makes a huge difference when someone's going to go look for somebody. Are they going to choose the place that has 0 photos or the place that has really nice headshots of people smiling and doing their job and having a good time? I hope that helped.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. I was just thinking too, it's political season right now as we're recording this. And who needs better headshots? Local politicians or people running for office. And because I've worked on so many campaigns and I just struggle every time because I'm like, who took your picture in a dark room? It's grainy. Your headshot is so critical no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you're doing. But when your name is out there and attached to something, to your point, Erin, it's so important. No matter what age you are or what you're doing, got to get a good headshot.
Also, if you need more, studies show that businesses and brands that show up consistently online make 30% more. That's right there. You're leaving money on the table if you're not showing up.
That's a great stat.
Who doesn't want 30% more revenue? I do.
That's a lot. That's a great stat.
It's a lot. So it's important. It really is. And again, it's your audience might not even know, but that's what it is. They are seeing you, remembering who you are, differentiating you from somebody else, recognizing you. All of that is super, super important.
Mm-hmm. If you're recommending quarterly shoots, how do you suggest people cycle through all that content? I'm curious. Do you, because that's a lot of photos. If we waved a magic wand over everything and I said, I'm going to see you quarterly, Erin, that's a lot of photos for me to use. Are you suggesting people are updating their LinkedIn, social media headshot every quarter? Or is it like a brand consistency? Keep it. Give me some stats on that.
No, I think updating every quarter. So first of all, you need to be consistent across all platforms. If you're changing it on one platform, you need to change it everywhere else. Because again, it's that subconscious recognition as we're scrolling through millions of posts every day. So that's key number one. But yes, changing, I'm sure you've seen it. If you've ever changed your profile photo, it gets so much engagement. People love it. People like seeing your face. They like seeing it. It makes them happy. You might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm putting myself out there too much. No one's thinking that. Literally 0 people are thinking that. They like seeing your face. They like connecting with you. So yes, I always recommend change it when you get new photos, or even if you don't, change it once a quarter, freshen it up. I just changed mine. It's a more summery outfit than the one I had before. And it's not even a new photo. It's just a different photo. But that's all of those things visually are so important and can create so much buzz without you even having to really do or say anything. It's just literally you changing your photo.
What if people are listening and they're like, okay, but I need to lose weight before I do this, or I need to buy a whole new wardrobe before I do this. And there's all these other factors that are holding them back from showing up in your studio. I know this happens.
I call those the buts. It's but I need to lose weight, but I need to buy new clothes, but I'm unphotogenic. And I always say lovingly, those are excuses. If you can find a photographer that knows what they're doing, none of that will matter. If they know how to pose you, if they know how to light you, if they know how to make you feel comfortable in front of the camera, all of that's going to go away. And I think I just made a reel about this. Everyone tells me they are the most unphotogenic person on the planet. I'd say like 95% of my clients say that to me. And I'm like, do you know that everybody on my website that you think looks amazing said that to me? Everybody just thinks that. And it's not your fault. We were not taught, for the most part, how to pose and look good in front of the camera. And the person taking the picture wasn't either. So I'm sure any one of us has a handful or more of photos of ourselves that we hate. But that's why. It's not you. It's not that you're unphotogenic. It's you didn't know how to stand and you didn't know how to turn to the best light. And the photographer didn't know how to direct you. Whether it was your mom or an actual photographer. And so that is why it's so important to not just hire somebody, but to hire someone good, hire someone that knows what they're doing, hire someone that makes you feel comfortable. Because if you feel comfortable, it is going to shine through on your photos and people are going to say, oh my gosh, that looks like you, the best version I've ever seen of you. That's probably one of the best compliments I see when I'm creeping on my clients' photos that they posted. Oh my gosh, she captured the real you. And that's how you do it, is you find somebody that will put you at ease and that you trust, that they're going to make me look good.
So if you're in Idaho, obviously call Erin. But if people are not in Idaho, I know you fly everywhere. So
I do.
They can come find you. But if they can't come find you, what are some questions that they could ask the photographer to really dial in? Can you pose me the right way? How can you really show me that you have done this for other people? Besides, I love your style. Are there interview questions people should be asking their photographers?
I think there's a couple questions, but more than that, I think it's taking a look at their body of work as a whole. I always tell my students, put a full session up, because of course we're all going to show our best work. But can the photographer have a beautiful full session of amazing images? That's important. You could ask them to see that. I don't know. It's hard because you never want to offend somebody and make them think, oh, I don't think you're that great. but I would look for it first. I would look for a full session. I would look to see that their body of work shows different body types and that they're posed in a flattering way. I would ask if the photographer, what their editing process is. So a lot of photographers, they refuse to edit. They're like, that's what you look like. I'm not going to edit you. I am of the mindset that's what you might look like in that particular pose or light, but that's not what you look like in real life. So if there's something I can fix, I'll fix it. If you had your arm pressed against your body, it's bigger than it actually is. I will fix that for you. So that's a conversation that's definitely worth having. I think another one to ask is, will you pose me? Will you tell me what to do? That's probably the number one thing I hear from people that work with me that have already worked with someone else is, I love how you told me what to do. I tell you where to put your hand. I tell you where to turn your chin. And I'm realizing more and more photographers don't give direction. And there's nothing worse when you already are uncomfortable in front of the camera to have the person not tell you what to do. You're like, yeah, that's right. Does it look weird? Give me something here. So those three things, just like a full body of work. Does their portfolio show different ages, different body types, different skin types, all of those things? And what is their editing and posing process?
Yeah, because I feel like a good photo, there were poses that you put me in that's not a natural way to stand or to sit. You know what I mean? This isn't normal. But the picture that came out of it, hello, I love it. Frame it on my wall. I think there's something to be said about most people are not going to be natural at posing unless
posing feels super weird. The weirder it feels, the better it probably looks. So true.
Do you have one pose that's like your go-to pose for every single person, no matter what?
So I would say if they're standing, I love that leaning on the wall. Pretty sure we did that of you. The shoulder leaning on the wall. Because it just, if it's a woman, it just accentuates that S curve. And then sitting, one of the best things you can do in a sitting photo is lean your upper body forward, because now I'm giving you posing tips, but we probably all had a really bad photo of us sitting where you're like, am I really that big? No, you're not. Whatever's closest to the camera appears largest. So if you're sitting and your upper body is back and your lower body's forward, your lower body looks massive. It's just a trick of the camera and it's a trick of angles. And so just sitting up and leaning forward and chin out and down, going to make a massive difference. I've done a couple before and after posing reels and posts, and people are just blown away because you don't even need Photoshop. It's really just about those angles.
Thank you for those two recommendations. Go find Erin's Instagram. We'll link it up because your reels are always really fun. And those ones have always been like a highlight.
Love those.
So good. Erin, thank you for everything. Is there any last piece of advice for people when they're thinking about their personal brand, or you've given us so much today, but is there anything else that you want people to know that would be helpful as they're building their brand in this digital landscape?
I think if I could tell you anything, it's just put yourself out there. Most people are not scrutinizing us as much as we're scrutinizing ourselves. And I've done a lot of silly things and posted things that I thought were stupid, and they did the best. And so it's just always a lesson, even to myself, that just putting yourself out there and being genuine and providing value and entertainment for your ideal clients, it's going to come back in tenfold. They will find you and they will eventually hire you, even if it's not right away. I've had people that have watched me for years and then booked me for a big shoot. You just never know who's watching. So enjoy yourself and put yourself out there and don't take yourself too seriously.
Oh, that's beautiful. We'll end there. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you?
And mostly I'm on Instagram. I am Erin Blackwell. And then my website is erinblackwellstudio.com.
Perfect. And if you're in Idaho, Erin is worth the time and the energy and the investment to book. Thank you for your time today, Erin.
Thanks. It was fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Business Origin Stories. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Join me on Instagram and make sure to sign up for our weekly email.